Welcome to Lesson 3 in Unit 21, From Sun to Food. In the last lesson, students discovered that plants can gain mass without any soil. However, they still do not know what does cause plants to gain mass. Students will plan and conduct an experiment using beans to determine the importance of water, air, and light for plant growth. They figured out that plants need air and water to build their own matter. Light energy is needed for the healthy green appearance of plants. This lesson will take about 3 days. In the Engage portion of this lesson, recall the sprouter experiment results from Lesson 2 with your students. They should have noticed that the plants gain mass, also known as matter, while in the sprouter. Ask students, where do plants get the matter they need to grow? Allow time for partner talk. Discuss student thoughts as a group. You may want to record student ideas on chart paper to reference after their experiments. Remind students that during this lesson they will analyze the data from the bean experiment they set up during Lesson 1, which will help them to answer this question. The bean experiment that was set up during Lesson 1 will be concluded during Lesson 3. At this point, students should have observed bean growth every 2 days from the beginning. As these beans grew, students should have measured root length and stem length using a piece of string to trace the length of the root and then straighten out the string to measure the total length. The images provided in the lesson tutorial show growth by day 6. From left to right, light plus water plus air test. Notice the green leaves emerging, as this is a healthy growing plant. The center image shows light plus water with no air. Notice the stunted growth because plants need air to build their matter and grow. The image on the right shows water plus air with no light. Notice the yellow leaves emerging and the thicker stem. This is not a healthy plant, though it is still growing because it has air and water to build matter. Refer to the bean setup directions for more information. By day 9, students should have noticed that the bean plant with no air barely grew at all, and this will be explained further in Lesson 5 during the photosynthesis game. You do not need to share this with students in Lesson 3, but revisit in Lesson 5 to see if students can explain that the bean plant with no air grows only a little bit. This is because the seed contains some stored food in it for the plant to grow. However, once that food ran out, the plant could not grow anymore. Air is required for photosynthesis to be able to make sugar. The plant with no light grew quite a bit because air and water were provided. This is what plants use to build sugar to be able to grow. However, the leaves are yellow, which is not healthy. Eventually, this plant would die if left in the dark forever. The seeds grown without water should not really be able to grow at all. It would just look like a regular bean, or perhaps slightly sprouted due to soaking. Teachers, you should take pictures of the bean plants at this point because they will be needed to reference plant parts during Lesson 5. Alternatively, if they survive when Lesson 5 is taught, you may use these actual bean plants. After the end of the observation period, have each group gather all of their data and observations. Have students graph stem length on the bean data collection sheet. Put students into 3 groups, so each group should have each of the 3 variables represented. In the Explain portion of this lesson, student groups will compare their data and discuss the following questions. You may want to chart the questions displayed here to facilitate group discussion. As groups discuss these questions, encourage them to give evidence to support their claim about what causes plants to gain matter and grow. They should have their completed graphs to use for reference. Next, as a class, discuss the data and comparisons. Use these prompts. In the elaborate portion of this lesson, give students time to revise their pizza farm model based on the results from their experiment. You may want to give students time to provide each other with feedback on their models. As a result of this investigation, students may be able to draw matter arrows from air and water to the plant. They should also be able to draw energy arrows from the sun to the plant if they had not done so already. In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, students will complete the Evaluate on student page 11. Refer to the answer key on teacher page 8 for guidance. The optional Extend activity will require access to a digital camera to do a simple time-lapse photography project with the beans. Refer to the curriculum for more information about this activity. By the end of this lesson, students planned and conducted an experiment using beans to determine the importance of water, air, and light for plant growth. They figured out that plants need air and water to build their own matter. Light energy is needed for the healthy green appearance of plants. This lesson provided students with a concrete, observable experience to connect to Lesson 5, in which they will explore the process of photosynthesis in depth.